Hello, my dearest friends, my beautiful co-creator souls of love and light. This is Nenari, Princess of the Sea, coming to you with a new video. I wanted to do this video while I am sitting here in this beautiful space of nature, the little bit of nature that I am allowed to enjoy right now. I am still in hiding, in fear for my life, as I shared in my last video, and so I wish to give you an update on what's happened in the last month. As you can possibly hear, the birds are singing their song, and I am enjoying a small piece of nature and being able to be out here in nature. And so what has happened in the last month, for those of you who are free from understanding what has occurred, please see my previous video that I did about a month ago now. In that time, I have been doing a lot of grieving through loss, healing through loss, and coming into a place of digging out of a hole, as it were, from an earthly standpoint. When everything occurred for me, as it did in the beginning of the year until now, it called into being, into question for me, everything. It called into question my spirituality. It called my inner knowing out to me. It called into question just everything that I held dear to me in my life, in my way of being. Everything that I have written about in my numerous articles, videos that I've done, everything, it called into question all of it. Because I was so depressed, not as in a depression, but depressed as in pushed down in the situation that I was in. I was suppressed, I was oppressed, I was tortured, I was treated cruelly and inhumanely, and even through it all, there was a moment actually when I had the opportunity to be out of the unit that I was on and on another unit in which they did this kind of career day for the other inmates that were there. And there was this one woman who just saw me as I was walking by the table, and she just totally out of character said, "Don't let them dim your light." And I kind of turned and I looked and I was like, "What did you just say to me?" And so I walked over to her table and she and I had a discussion, and she said how she knew that I was spiritual, and there was just something about me, that there was this bright light around me, and that I was really coming from my soul. And she said, "Don't allow them to dim your light." And this was about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks into what had happened. And it was very revealing. I mean, she didn't even know who I was. During the course of our conversation, I did reveal to her who I was, and she said, "Oh my God, now it makes sense. I just felt so called. I had to say something to you, and I don't know where it came from." So it was very revealing, and so there were bright moments like that. There was a native elder that was allowed to come into the place where I was at there in the jail, and she brought a bright light and allowed me to do healing ceremony as the shaman that I'm revered as, with her, and to do cleansing ceremony with cedar bells, and there were little bright spots like that that really reminded me of the soul of who I am. But it wasn't until after I got out of that hellhole, if you will, that bottomless pit of hell and suppression and oppression, that everything really hit me hard. And it called into question everything that I live and be and am. And I came to the point where I was so down in that rabbit hole, literally asking myself, what was the point of continuing on this earth? What was the point of being here anymore? And it particularly hit me hard around the time of my daughter's birthday, which is March 26th. And so out of it, I've been climbing out of this hole and into my soul, climbing out of the hole and into my soul. I didn't realize I just rhymed that. And in my soul healing and coming back into my soul, I realized that over the last 6 years, I had been in my soul, but it had intermittently gone down the path of fear and ego and anger and doing some things and lashing out in hurting people that I love. One person in particular that I didn't realize, and in turn I was hurting myself. And this person in particular was also doing the same thing. And we both have now come into a balance of really being in our soul. And so from that, just recently, back on the 8th of April, I was channeling part of this new book. For those of you who haven't been watching my Facebook posts and whatnot, I am in the process within this healing and coming into soul, writing a new book, actually, that is called Soul, or Song of Universal Love. And in essence, what this book is at the end of Song of the Troubadour and Song of the Princess, when the princess and the troubadour marry, there is a part in the book in which the master artist is then granting for their greatest creation to come forth. So Soul, Song of Universal Love, is a book about what it means to be in the soul. How do you live from the soul? And what is the soul anyway? And how do you be a soul? How do you be soul? You know, what is this concept? And what is this concept of love? And what does love truly mean? What is divine love? What is universal love? All of these questions and more is what's been pouring through me and channeling through me as I've reached up out of that rabbit hole and back into the light of who I am, back into my soul. And I can say that I am now fully healed from the loss of everything. And I wanted to share with you part of this book that I'm channeling, because on the April 8th, this part came through. It was like 5 in the morning. I haven't been sleeping regularly as I have been. In fact, I pulled an all-nighter the other night as well in writing this book. And I wanted to share with you the part about soul healing that I've channeled through. So I'm going to read it here, and then I'm also going to expand upon it a little bit here in this video. In my second book, Stepping into Spiritual Oneness, which I published now 8 years ago. I actually wrote it about 10 years ago now, and published it officially 8 years ago. And it is out on Amazon. It is written in my earthly name still, published under my earthly name, but I do have it out there. If you go to Amazon and you can look up Stepping into Spiritual Oneness, you'll find it there. But in my second book, there is an extensive whole chapter that I channeled through me of the master artist's wisdom on the path of pain and suffering, and how to shift it into oneness. Also within that same book, I write of the wisdom related to physical detoxing of the body as well as the spiritual detoxing of the soul. I share of Jen's story in there, and about the practical steps in both realms of how to do and be within the body and the soul of this healing. This is just one of the infinite layers of the soul, of living and being in the soul, that I explore within that book. And just to share with you briefly about a little bit about Jen's story. Jen was a young woman of then 24 who about, I think it was about 10 years ago or so now, had come into our satsang group, our spiritual group that I was holding every week. And she announced to us that she had an inoperable brain tumor on her optic nerve, and they were giving her 3 to 6 months to live, a year if she was lucky. And I looked at her that night and I asked her, I said, Jen, do you want to live? And at that point she said, I don't know. And so I said to her, well, when you're ready to live, let me know and we can heal this, we can shift this. So together, her and I embarked upon a very deep 5-month process in which we healed her cancer and shifted her cancer. And the way we did it was physical detox, yes, and I speak extensively about that in Stepping into Spiritual Oneness, about the different methods that you can use. Sea salt and water, being chronically dehydrated is one of the #1 causes of disease physically. And I've talked about this on my videos as well, and in satsangs and whatnot as well. And many other methods, eating raw organic foods, reishi mushroom, various herbs, colloidal silver, and other alternative methods that we utilized for the physical body during that process. And then there was also the soulful or spiritual detoxing process for her as well. And one of her greatest underlying programmings was, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough. And so I helped her along with our satsang group. As a group, they were all holding space, and I worked on this with her one-on-one and mentoring sessions over those months with her to heal within her that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy enough, the self-hatred, the self-loathing within her, the deep physical and spiritual healing to require to bring her back into the soul of who she really is, to help her to remember. And 5 months after this process had occurred, she had gone to UCLA Medical Center for testing. And they actually kept her an additional 4 days and ran the tests, I think it was another 3 times or something of that nature, because they couldn't believe what they were seeing. They thought there was something wrong with their equipment. At that point, the tumor had shrunk in half. And I believe it was a month or so after, a couple months after, that the tumor was completely gone. And she's been cancer-free ever since, to the best of my knowledge. I have lost touch with her over the years. But the last time I did speak to her, she was still cancer-free. And so I was remembering this as I was going through my own healing process, along with many other things that I was remembering. And so to continue reading what is in this part of the chapter, or a chapter of my new book now, just wanted to give you a little bit of background on Jen and her story. Within this book now of soul, we will now take this to the next level, the next vibration, the next resonance. Living and being in the soul is about balance, both spiritual, soul, and physical, body, the two being as one, the soul within the body. The body is the vehicle in which the soul utilizes to experience. As we are created from this same master artist who fashions all that is, so too are we created as soul, as an infinite expression, creation, of this master artist who is love. We come here to experience, express, demonstrate, feel, embody what it is that we are, as a soul, incapable or unable to experience in physical. So that source is experiencing itself through us, as us. Within this balance, we have both the soul experience and also the physical human body temple form experience. Thus we are here to experience pain, suffering, joy, bliss, love, fear, all of the infinite colors of the rainbow. In essence, in truth, the soul is free from requiring healing, for the soul just simply is. It is love. It is source itself as love. When we speak of soul healing, then, what it really means is that we are healing the aspects within the body that keeps us from being soul, to allow the soul, our soul, to shine through the body. In Stepping into Spiritual Oneness, I wrote of the Master Artist's wisdom, of that we are often here as spiritual beings having a human experience. And Source shared that it's actually a full circle. That we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and within having that human experience, we rest or remember, embrace, and soulfully treasure the spiritual being we are. Thus within soul healing, this means human experience in physical form. This means to fully embrace the human experience, knowing that this is the soul's way of expressing through the body of those infinite colors of the rainbow, described above. Much like a child who feels an experience of upsetness, of anger, the child in that moment is free from denying those feelings. Rather, the child, being fully within the soul, feels full out such a tantrum, and then releases it, and the next moment is back in the joy and awe and wonder within all of life, being love. There is a fallacy that is believed that to be in the soul means to be this perfect person all of the time, and never be angry or fearful or hurt or anything. The truth is that we are here to experience that rainbow described above. For if we were to only experience the isness of love all the time, we could simply just go back to being in Source, go back with the Source, and go back home to Source. We come here to this earth to experience both and. In other words, to me, we are here to experience all that is, and this all that is, everything and nothing, all at once, which is comprised of all thoughts, emotions, experiences, expressions, nothingness, and everythingness infinitely in between, even beyond what our humanness can comprehend, that our soul only knows. Solution, and I say solution spelled S-O-U-L, as in solutions from the soul. The solution, then, is to experience such feelings and emotions that flow through us, knowing that we are free from being those emotions and feelings, that we are free from being that those feelings and emotions are free from being who we really are. And for me, as a sidestep to what I am reading from this chapter, for me, that was very key in this whole process of the last few months, because the real earthly humanness of the pain and the suffering and the torture and the hurt and the inhumane things that were done to me, in stepping out of that pain and hurt from the earthly standpoint and reaching for the soul, reaching for my soul, I had to realize that those thoughts, feelings, emotions, and things that were being done to me, yeah, they were being done to me from the physical standpoint, earthly standpoint, and that was very real and is very real. Yet in reaching for the soul, I had to understand of what I've always understood and always known in the soul, and is what I've mentor others in and had been living and being up until that point of this experience, which was that those things that happened to me is not who I really am. So to go back to read what I was reading from this chapter of my new book. For who we are as a soul is an infinite, formless, changeless being of love. The key is to feel these emotions, thoughts, feelings, experiences, circumstances, and yet be free from delving down that rabbit hole of staying stuck within them for any given length of time, for any given earthly time. We are to be as the child written above and shift back into love. And equally, we are to hold space for another when they are experiencing such experiences, knowing that it is simply coming through and up and out for release, so that the soul can shine through the body, free from the excess weight of the body burdens of human experience. This is what is known as spiritual detox, as I wrote about in my second book, Stepping into Spiritual Oneness, or also known as soul detox. The soul itself is free from detoxing because, again, the soul is simply already and always infinite love. Yet in the body, in the physical form, we are then shedding all that no longer serves us, so that in total surrender, we come back into the love we already and always are, the divine love, the universal love of the soul. Thich Nhat Hanh speaks of compassionate listening. He speaks of compassionate listening, of truly understanding when another is in pain, and to free the body from such pain so that the soul can shine through. And it was the blessing of my daughter Caitlin Rose, who is in spirit, who gave me this gift of purity, the purity of the soul. And again, this was something I was reminded of in healing coming into my soul in these last few months. For 13 years ago, many of you may not be aware of this, and I write of this next in Song of Universal Love. And I will just simply share the story with you. 13 years ago, I was pregnant with my daughter Caitlin. While carrying her within me, I was about 5 months pregnant. And she spoke to me, her soul spoke to me while I was pregnant with her, and told me that her name was to be Caitlin Rose. Now, Caitlin means pure or pure soul, and Rose means love. Thus, she is pure soul, purity, pure soul love. Her essence was free from being meant to stay here on this earth. She was just meant to come through me to give me a gift. For much like in my last life that I carried her in 357 years ago with my twin soul, in which I was pregnant with her and gave birth to her stillborn, full term, in that life. I was in much grief, in grieving, in pain. And so in that life, 357 years ago, as I talked about in one of my YouTube videos, and I'll provide the link for that in the video description here, I thought I was going to cleanse myself in the waters and heal myself and be able to breathe in the waters like we did in Lemuria, and thus I actually drowned myself. And my twin soul, who was with me in that life, he spent the rest of that life grieving himself and sailing the seas as the sailor and guitarist he was then, as he is now. He sailed the seas in that life, still searching for me and grieving over that loss. And so in this life, 13 years ago, when I was about 5 months pregnant, I was, I think, a little over 5 months pregnant with her, she died within me. And because of the circumstances at that time, I had to give birth to her stillborn again. And this time, in this life, I buried her in my backyard then, the backyard that I had then. From an earthly standpoint, it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life. I think even harder than the last 3 months or so that I'd been through. From an earthly standpoint, one never really gets over the loss of a child. And Caitlin's birthday would have been, and is to me still, 26th of March. And so every 26th of March, I celebrate her and I honor her for the gift that she is, the purity and the love that she is, that pure soul love. And you still feel it from an earthly standpoint. And that's what being in soul is about. You can feel these emotions of grieving, of loss. It doesn't mean that you're not in your soul. It actually means that you have humanity. And your soul is coming through the body and experiencing it. As I was reading to you in the chapter. And this is the gift that Caitlin gave to me. Because it's when you're being real, raw, vulnerable, and from the heart, in being human and spiritual as one. That's what it means to be in soul. And so this is the soul remembering that I had forgotten in that other life, that I rest within in each moment now, in this life. And it brought me back to that, and brings me back to that in each moment. Because as I continue to read now from this chapter, and in those moments when I forget about being my soul, I tune into that. Tune into her essence of that pure soul of my Caitlin Rose. Which brings me back into the present moment of this now, and brings me back into alignment with my soul. Of knowing that, as I wrote in my book, Stepping into Spiritual Oneness, about my dearest friend Jim. My dearest friend Jim, he died in 2005, and I share of his story in my book, Stepping into Spiritual Oneness, and I invite you to get that book so that you can read of his story, because he was an amazing soul. That was the soul remembering that I came to within, that our loved ones, they're always with us. Caitlin's with me right now. Even though I'm apart from you, my family, and Vernon, you're still with me right here in my heart. And I know I'm in your heart. And my twin soul, the same. Because our loved ones are always with us in our heart and our soul, and that never changes. And when we remember that who we really are as soul is formless, changeless, birthless, deathless, immortal, infinite, free from beginning, free from ending. This essence is soul as love, is the song of universal love. Thus the acronym SOUL. And that is who we really are. It's the physical presence that we miss. And in humanness, that's okay to grieve for that loss. So for all of you who are grieving through loss, this is why I'm sharing this video with you right now and reading this chapter to you and sharing all I'm sharing with you in such vulnerability. Because as an Eckhart Tolle quote I read once speaks about how through being vulnerable is where your invulnerability lies, where true love really lies. And I will find that quote and include it in the video description here. I think I did from one of my other videos on YouTube here. So soul healing then is simply remembering of who we really are. There's that part of us that is formless, changeless, birthless, deathless, immortal, infinite, free from beginning, free from ending. This is who we are as soul. And when we tune into that place, that resonance, that vibration, and be a vibrational match to it, then we know that our loved ones are always with us. And the love is there forever and a day. Soul healing then is simply remembering this of who we are. And as thoughts, feelings, and emotions come up within you, transforming them into what is being written above and said above here in this video, into compassionate listening. That can occur through this healing of affirmative prayer that I'm going to share with you right now. And it says this: Dearest soul within the body, please know that I hear you. I feel your pain. I hear your suffering. I am here for you as you empty your heart of your pain so that you can come to remember who you really are, which is love itself. Know I am here for you, holding you in compassion and love, holding space for you in remembrance of who you really are. And I offer you this prayer. There is one universal heart, and that is God, love, source, the master artist. It is within this same universal heart that we hold you in upliftment and love you. Healing is sent in this moment in understanding that right where you are, so too love is, God is, healing is. Seeing you as whole, perfect, complete, and already and always healed, and allowing whatever is to be, allowing God, Source, the Master Artist, to fill you with love, with loving, healing light to guide you, however and wherever you are meant to go and be. Seeing you in this light so that you too, in right seeing, in the same light, see yourself, see your soul. There is nothing to be healed, only love to be revealed. In this now, you balance all of your life structures with thought, feeling, and intent, bringing health, wholeness, and abundance shining through you as your life. In thanksgiving, appreciation, and gratitude, this affirmative prayer is given. And so it is. So be it. It is done. This is how we detox the soul and the body, so that the soul can shine through the body and be as one with the body, as the Master Artist calls us forth to be. Our charge, our task, is to be this vision. The vision of who you really are, of the love, the light, the beauty of the soul, the purpose and mission of our soul, the truth of who we really are of this love. In this vision also comes forth beautiful, deep, soulful relationships, relating ships, the ships of love that relate, connect, come together in union of this love, of living life, and living a life that is complete and whole. And when we are living within the soul and solutions, it is the outer reflection of the inner vibration of this wholeness, this completeness. This too is how we create heaven on earth, always, in all ways. And this too is how I have healed now from these last 4 months of everything that has occurred. So I now give this gift to you in love, in prayer, that you too come into your soul and soul healing. I love you.